So which one are you including me in?
You're going to be with disability services?
Okay. Because it is higher ed for me, so I'm like,
Yes, so yeah, the other programs are programs for individuals with disabilities that are like their actual programs. I don't know if,
I would call it specialty programs.
okay,
Okay.
specialty programs. I kind of categorize disability services as like the disability services offices on the campuses. So that's how I divided them for myself.
Melanie, you can go ahead and get started, or you want me to just open it up? Or?
No, I can get started.
Okay.
All right. Good morning. Welcome back to the 30th anniversary of the ADA in the midst of the pandemic. I want to welcome you to the options in higher education for students with disabilities. My name is Melanie, and I'll be facilitating this session. So we have 9 panelists representing a variety of institutions and programs. So please, as I introduce you, turn your video on and then turn it off as I move to the next person. I'm going to turn my video off now. All right, so our first panelist is Johnny Manella. Johnny Manella has been involved in higher education over 15 years. He's employed by Baton Rouge Community College for over 8 years in positions such as Director of Financial Aid, Director of Student Outreach, Director of the Student Services Center, and Interim Director of the Program for Successful Employment, which he has been in for the past 7 months. Johnny Manella. Next, we have Tim Delaney. Tim Delaney is the director for the Office of Disability Services and Compliance at McNeese State University. He's about to start his 24th year in this office, and he has a master's degree in rehabilitation counseling. Tim Delaney. Next, we have Dr. Caroline Jurisic. Dr. Caroline Jurisic serves as the director of the UL Life at the University of Louisiana at Lafayette. She holds a bachelor's degree in mass communication from Louisiana State University, a master's of arts in teaching degree, and a doctorate in educational leadership from both UL of Lafayette. Dr. Caroline Jurisic. Thank you. Next, we have Benjamin Cornwell. Benjamin has served as the department head for disability services at LSU since 1999 and is currently the Associate Dean of Students and Director of Disability Services. Benjamin graduated with a master's degree in rehabilitation counseling from LSU Health and Science Center in 1996. He also worked at Tulane from 1997 to 99 and started their disability services office. Thank you. Next, we have Dr. Mary Bro. Has Dr. Bro joined us?
She's getting on. Can you do her introduction?
Okay, so I'll come back. Next, we have Dr. Geraldine Beckers. Dr. Geraldine Beckers is an associate professor and director of Lions Connected at Southeastern Louisiana University in the College of Education. This is her 29th year in the field of special education, and she holds the Pennington Research Endowment. Thank you, Dr. Beckers. Next, we have Cindy Haying. Cindy is the director of the Program for Successful Employment at Bossier Parish Community College. Her bachelor's is from UL Lafayette, and her master's in education in special education is from Midwestern State University in Texas. Thank you, Cindy. And here is Dr. Mary Bro. Dr. Mary Bro is the program advisor for the Educational Leadership P12 graduate program and the co-creator / program advisor for the Bridge to Independence program at Nichols State University. Thank you, Dr. Bro. Next, we have Aramachi Ukachu, and she is from LSU Health and Science Center with the Human Development Center. Aramachi has obtained her master's degree in clinical rehabilitation counseling from Louisiana State University Health and Science Center. Thank you, Ms. Ukachu. Last but not least, we have Jada Netters. Ms. Netters is the interim coordinator of disability services at Southern University at Baton Rouge. She is a graduate of Nichols State University, where she received her specialist degree in school psychology and her master's of arts degree in psychological counseling. Thank you very much. So this session will be conducted as a question and answer session. The questions will be directed to particular persons. So we'll go ahead and get started. So we will begin with disability services. And so let's start out with McNeese. Okay, so what is available to students through disability services at your institution? You're on mute, Mr. Delaney.
Sorry about that. We provide all types of accommodation. Really depends on the disability. We have some that get note takers, a lot get extended time on tests, distraction, reduced testing environments. We provide interpreters. Just basically depends on the disability.
Okay. Mr. Cornwell, can you answer that same question?
Yes, ma'am. Kind of short version is similar to what Tim said, is that accommodations are determined on a case-by-case basis. They can range from everything to extended time, consideration for absences. We do work to determine housing accommodations for students. Also, like particularly right now, we're working with students who may have issues related to concerns, whether it's immune deficiency concerns related to COVID, trying to bridge some of the gaps with hybrid classes or classes online, the need for classes online, or maybe the need to have classes in some other unique manner. But as always, accommodations are determined case by case, and there's a significant variety of them.
Okay, thank you very much. And next we'll have Jada Netters from Southern answer the same question.
Good morning. As the previous panelists have said, we also provide accommodations based on case-by-case disabilities, but we do offer accommodations for extended time, visually impaired, hearing impairments, and we also do absences as well. And there are certain things or certain disabilities like medical conditions, heart conditions that we are now starting to provide particular accommodations for.
Okay, thank you very much. Next, we are going to move to the special programs, and we'll start with John Manella at BRCC. What are the overall goals of your program at BRCC?
Our overall goals are really to foster independence with our students. So we need to make sure that as we interview our students that this is something that they really want. and that they have the proper support from their family members or caregivers. Part of our component is finding them jobs outside in the real world. So we don't work with students that may need support in employment. We need to know that they can function independently, can take care of themselves, and but the main thing is to urge independence among our students.
And can you remind everybody which program you are representing?
Yeah, I'm at Parish Community College, and our program is the Program for Successful Employment.
Thank you. Okay, so now UL Life, can you tell us what is the overall goal of your program? You're on mute.
Thank you. Sorry. We should have this down by now. I think, all the programs across the board are similar, and we want independence for our students. We kind of have 4 what I call pillars of our program: academic growth, career development, community involvement, and independent living. And we feel like those 4 areas, by working on those and really diving into those areas, we're able to give students the skills they need to be independent after they leave college. And, we want to make sure that their independence after college is in a job, a career, a living environment that they want, and to truly be able to advocate for themselves. That is the underlying goal of everything we do. So we don't want them to go into a situation where they just kind of, found a job, but it's not something they love. Students go to college to find a career they love. They go to learn independent living skills. And we want our students to do the same thing.
Thank you very much. Next, we'll have Dr. Bro from Nichols.
Hi, good morning. We have the Bridge to Independence program at Nichols State University. Like the UL Life program and the program at Southeastern, we have many similarities in our certificate program. The goal is for students to transition to the workforce and to independent living. Our certificate program is a 2-year program for students with intellectual disability. And we also offer a degree program, which is for students who are accepted to the university working on any degree of their choice. And we provide a host of supports for them to be successful in their courses and to also transition to gainful employment and independent living.
Thank you very much. Next, we'll have Southeastern with Alliance Connected.
Hi. Wait, I'm mute. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Can you see me?
Yes.
Okay, good. So I'm Dr. Beckers from Southeastern, like our sister universities at Nichols and UL Lafayette. We have very similar standards. One thing I think that's unique to our program is we serve a lot of rural communities. So we have to look at our ultimate goal is employment. We have to look at what our students are able to do in the rural communities. So that is, I think, one of the little things that makes us very different from the other programs, because the radius of our program, we serve St. Helena Parish, Washington Parish, way out there. So employment is critical. Becoming contributing members to society to the maximum extent possible is something we really focus on at Lions Connected. But again, like Caroline said and Mary said, we're very similar in what we offer our students, and we work collaboratively for, like, Southeastern does not have on-campus housing, but Nichols and UL Lafayette do. So if they want on-campus housing, we send them over that way. So
That's great. Yes. Okay, so now we'll move to Bossier Parish Community College.
Good morning. Yes, I'm the Program for Successful Employment at Bossier Parish Community College. again, we have many similarities. One thing that's different about the community colleges is we have some opportunities to provide certificate programs that are different than four-year schools offer. And whether it's a no-show certification or we've had one gentleman earn his license to drive a forklift. So we have a little bit of different training program, but all of us are looking for independence. All of us are looking to make sure these students not only know what's available that they want, but know how to ask for what they need in a way that's appropriate, and not to expect people in high school. It's a high school's job to find you and to see that you have everything you need. But once you move out into the work world, you need to stand up for yourself. And if you haven't had practice doing that, it can be difficult. So that said, another thing that our types of programs offer are some accommodations that typical ADA requirements don't require a college to do. And I think that's important to understand. Maybe you needed some special support in high school that isn't going to be available in college, because and it's not that you can't have it, it's that you have to pay for it yourself. And so that's a difference. We've had students who had to have help because of a significant physical disability. And I think it's important that parents understand that some of these rules change as you go from one law to the next. So please contact any of us, and we'll let you know how to make sure that you're prepared to go on.
Cindy, there's something happening with your connection. We can't hear you. Okay.
We all want people to be welcomed and to be comfortable so they can work towards independence.
Okay. Thank you very much. There was a
Can
little
you
bit
hear
of,
me now?
yes. So there was a little snippet that I could not hear, but we caught the end.
Can you hear me now?
Yes. Can you hear me? Cindy? Okay, so let's move forward. Hopefully Cindy can get that worked out. We're going to move on to the LSU Health and Science Center.
Good morning. So yeah, I'm Amarachi, and the paycheck program, which stands for Post-Secondary Apprenticeship for Youth Pilot.
And I didn't have any bubble. Can you hear me? Oh.
I'm sorry, I don't know what happened. You can continue.
Okay, so yeah, the Post-Secondary Apprenticeship for Youth Pilot, which stands for Paycheck, is an innovative collaboration between LSU Health Human Development Center and also Louisiana Rehab Services and Delgado Community College. We also include public school systems, charter school associations, and also employers in the New Orleans metro area. So it's a 3-semester program where students participate in courses at Delgado Community College. They also engage in professional career development activities, such as job shadowing and work site visits. They also learn community and work-related skills to gain employment experiences through paid apprenticeships. So our main goal is to increase opportunities for students with disabilities to achieve competitive integrated employment. And I would say the most important skill that we teach in Paycheck is self-advocacy. That's advocating for their accommodations at the community college, advocating for accommodations and extra supports in their jobs, in their careers too.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you all for sharing. Those sound like some really amazing programs. So next, what I'll be doing is now asking individual questions to different programs. I wanted to make a quick note that there will be people posting questions in the chat here on Zoom and also posting questions from the YouTube stream. Because we have such a tight panel and we're tight on time, if any of the panelists see questions in the chat, if they're available to check the chat out every now and then, and if you want to answer those questions while you're waiting, you can, but if not, we'll have to deal with those separately. So let's just move on into the questions for individuals. So my first question is for Johnny Manella. Johnny, how do parents pay for the program?
Well, a large majority of our students actually make payment through LRS or Louisiana Rehabilitation Services. One of the things that we highly recommend, especially for our new students, is as they apply online to our website, they get a little congratulations, you've applied. And one of the things that we recommend that they do immediately is to reach out to LRS. Hopefully they've already established a relationship in the past while they were in high school, which will help speed the process along to determine whether they qualify for any economic need or financing. Past that, at the present time, students would be required to make payment on their own, and we will work out a little payment plan with them if needed. But I would say probably 90% or more participate through LRS. So one of the things that we did for the fall, and of course, COVID changed a lot of things, is we tried to institute a application deadline of May the 1st, which of course we didn't keep because of COVID, because if they are new to LRS, it could take as much as 90 days to have all the proper documentation secured. And we want to be sure that we know that tuition and expenses will be taken care of prior to. But in a short answer, the majority is LRS.
Okay, very good. LRS is a good resource for that. Okay, so my next question is going to be for Tim Delaney from McNeese. Tim, does your university accept IEPs or 504 plans from the high schools as documentation? You're on mute.
I'm so sorry. No, we actually, I'll look at them. Most students can get documentation from their doctor, their specialist. The only ones that actually have problems would be ones that have been diagnosed with the learning disabilities or dyslexia. And we actually do testing over here. So I'll honor the IEP pending they take the test over here, because I know it's very expensive if they go outside. But everyone else can get, a letter from their doctor, their specialist. And so mainly, like I said, just the dyslexic and learning disabled students are going to have problems. So we work out that with them, and we honor the IEP. We do look at them.
Okay. So you say that you honor them, but they have to get tested there as well?
Correct. In other words, they won't miss any test or anything. They'll still get their accommodation, their extended time and all that. But we have them take our test, to make sure that it's up to date and all that for the learning disabilities, the diagnosis.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay. Next question is for Dr. Caroline Jurisic. How are programs adjusting to the COVID-19 crisis?
So I know for us, we are really, following the lead of our university. We're involved in the university has created an emergency response team, and I've been participating in those meetings on a committee. We are trying as hard as we can to we know the importance of face-to-face interaction for our students, but we also know the importance of health standards for our students, and especially for our immunocompromised students. So we are looking kind of at each individual student and making plans for them based on their needs, while also trying as best as possible to keep that face-to-face interaction, keep them going to work as long as it is a safe environment on campus. So it's really been a team effort for us, specifically across the board from our university. We've been working with our housing department directly. We've been working with our student engagement. We've been working with dining services. We've been working with the faculty on campus to determine what classes will be remote, what will be face-to-face. But whenever we know that when our students attend any classes that are going to be remote, our mentors who support our students in classes are also going to attend those classes with them, regardless of if it's, through a computer or sitting a few feet apart, so they can have that one-on-one support from a mentor, and not be sitting behind a computer and feeling overwhelmed or not feeling like they can really grasp the information fully. So we're doing our best to figure everything out, but I think regardless, we're going to, have a successful semester, all things considering.
Very good, very good. Okay, our next question is for Dr. Beckers with Lions Connected. Dr. Beckers, what adjustments are you making in preparation for the fall semester and COVID safety precautions?
Well, we are following the university's protocol, which I think is pretty standard across the state. We are increasing the social distancing. We require our students to wear a mask, which we've been working with our parents over the summer because some of our students who have sensory concerns, wearing a mask has been a challenge. We are sanitizing. We will be sanitizing every day, as I'm sure all the other universities are. Our whole campus was sanitized. We're utilizing additional space throughout our building when we have social skills and life skills training. So we're not just all in one area because we have one location where we meet, begin the day and end the day. So we're utilizing empty offices, open spaces, common spaces that have more space to separate our students. And I think we're using this opportunity to teach appropriate social skills because some of our students don't understand personal space. So this is a really good way to teach that life skill of you have to be, step away from someone, or what is 6 feet, that type of thing.
Okay, thank you very much. And I'd like to ask Dr. Mary Brill that same question. What adjustments are you making in preparation for the fall semester for COVID safety?
Sure, thank you. We also are following all university precautions and procedures. There are many things that are in place on the Nichols State University webpage that families and individuals can go to and read through what exactly the university is doing. Like the others have said, we are utilizing university health services. We have a doctor on staff at the university. We are, following all of this sanitizing procedures. Nichols has purchased equipment to go in and spray classes after, students have been in that area. We are also utilizing additional space, utilizing face masks. The university has purchased those. Bridge has purchased some specific for our students and staff. We are utilizing Zoom in addition to face-to-face classes and interaction. We're going to be following everything that we typically do with all of those safety precautions in place that are outlined by the university and all of the protocols.
Okay, thank you very much. My next question is for Benjamin Cornwell. Are there any notable changes for disability services that you'd like to share that are happening at LSU?
In regard to
Disability.
COVID,
Yes.
or just in general?
Yes, COVID.
I think the biggest thing for us is, the move to an online format, students getting adjusted to that. Students with, whether it is some sort of immune deficiency or other conditions who may need only online classes. So working with the students and the faculty members to make sure that's put in place, make sure appropriate housing accommodations are in place for the students that need that. we are working with the institution and following the institution's policies for cleaning and helping determine what is being done to make sure students are receiving appropriate services and can be in the educational process in a safe environment.
Okay, thank you. Next, we'll have Cindy Haying. So Cindy, why choose inclusive higher education? Oh, I'm sorry, Cindy, we're still waiting to get connected. So we'll move on to, is she there? Okay. So we'll move on to Amarachi. Amarachi, who is a good candidate for the paycheck program? You're on mute.
Thank you. So in order to for a student to qualify for our program, they have to be between the ages of 18 and 22 years of age with an IEP or a Section 504 plan. They also have to be eligible for LRS services. And we have an application process where they have to submit a brief description of why they want to complete the paycheck program. And that includes letters of recommendation, and the parents or their guardians, they must also support the student to participate in our program as well.
Okay, great, great. Next, we have Jada Netters from Southern University. Jada, how can the rights of students registered with disability services that receive accommodations during COVID-19 be protected?
One way that we are working on making sure our students' rights are protected is by working with faculty, and we are doing faculty training. So over the next 2 weeks or so, we will have small group sessions with each department where myself and my colleague who's over ADA compliance will go through the federal laws, 504 laws, to make sure that our faculty understand that even though we're working online or working remotely or doing hybrid courses, that they still have to provide the accommodations for students.
Okay, very good. And Cindy, you can let me know when you have connected via telephone, and then I'll come back to you. Okay, so I'm going to take a quick minute to read the questions from chat since we got through our first round for everyone. Okay, so a question from Paul Coles. Good morning, all. Is there a way I can contact the representatives from LSU and Southeastern? I'm a veteran representative in Hammond and would like to set up an outreach.
Hi, this is Dr. Beckers from Southeastern. We can be reached at lionsconnected@selu.edu. That's all one word, lionsconnected@selu.edu. And my personal email is gbeckers@selu.edu.
Thank you, Dr. Beckers.
And this is Benjamin Cornwell from LSU. The best ways to contact us are calling our office at 225-578-5919 or emailing disability@lsu.edu.
Melanie,
Yes.
this is Bambi. What we could do is collect and maybe make a sheet of all the contact information for all the programs and people who were here. Maybe if all the panelists could send that information to you, and we'll just compile all of that to be able to send out to our people who registered for the conference.
Okay. Pertaining to that question or all questions here?
No, just so people can have the way to contact these people who are everyone who's presenting, so they, people might have follow-up questions or just want to see more about the program and their websites and that type of thing.
Okay. So my next question is from Elaine Harmon. Will the universities increase the nursing professional or have a COVID-19 testing site set up where Testing can be immediately done in case it needed. Is there a plan in place to accommodate this? And anybody who'd like to answer can answer that.
This is Benjamin at LSU again. Our Student Health Center is working to be able to provide COVID testing as needed. They're going to be randomly sampling 10 to 16% of the student population throughout the semester, but also as needed, their students will be able to go through and have testing done through our Student Health Center.
Hi, it's Gerlinda Beckers at Southeastern. We've already had a remote on-campus COVID testing where they brought to our site, and we'll utilize our health center also, as I'm sure most of the other universities will.
Okay, so I'll move on to the next question. Are the tests provided at a cost to students and families? If the school evaluation is current, why wouldn't they be honored? Dyslexia and learning disabilities are rarely cured. I think this is for, Tim.
Achievement levels, they do improve as one gets older. It's mostly for our records. We require all documentation has to be within 3 years. And most of the time, these LD tests are done in the elementary years. Sometimes they do upgrade them. I will add this. If they have a psych eval for different disabilities and it's recent, like in their senior year, we usually honor that. But most of the time, we just pretty much for our records, we want to see, where they are at educational, wise. Because conditions do change. The accommodations pretty much remain the same, but we want to make sure that there's something we're missing there. We've never had a student that was diagnosed, let's say in elementary school, that it didn't show back up on our test. It's accurate. We know it's lifelong. It doesn't go away. Students have to learn to deal with it. But it's for our benefit. It just kind of helps us to see where their weaknesses are and their strengths. Because usually when you're diagnosed as learning disabled, you're going to have pretty much strengths in a lot of areas, or normalcy, and you'll have that one area that plummets, maybe math, maybe English, but we need to know, what do we need to help them with?
Okay, thank you.
It's free, it doesn't cost anything.
Okay, so we had another question from a panelist, Hyacinth McKee, who wanted to know from the other panelists, does your program honor the IEP 504 for students? And if not, please explain the process. So we can start with, I'm not sure if that was directed only to the disability services programs or if she wanted it for all panelists. So I'll wait for her response, but we can start with LSU maybe?
Yeah, sure. IEPs are typically, for us, considered supplemental documentation. It depends on how well the IEP is done, what information is included within the IEP. Sometimes, the information, the evaluation that's inside the IEP, if there's an evaluation included with the IEP, is different from parish to parish, even school to school, state to state. So we need to take a look and see what's going on, how things were determined, and review it. Sometimes they need supplemental documentation from their doctor or a new evaluation. If they have an outdated eval, the institution does have some funding that was provided by an endowment, honestly, to do some evaluations. But it's going to be really different. And it's going to depend on each case as we review it.
Okay, thank you. And so next, can we have Jada from Southern address the same question?
For us at Southern, yes, we do review the IEPs and 504 plans from the K-12 programming, but that is not the only thing that we look at. It is a supplemental document as the same thing as LSU, and we do require new testing to be done. Unfortunately, at Southern, our students are responsible for the cost of the test. So we normally have a list of referral sources that we give them where they can go and get outside testing done. We also offer testing on campus, but it is an additional charge that they can have added to their tuition costs. So we haven't had the opportunity to write grants or anything like that to help supplement the cost of the testing. I know as a school psychologist, it can get quite expensive for testing, but that is our process right now.
If I may, I want to jump in real quick as a follow-up to what was being said by Southern. Is all university, I mean, if you go to OCR's website, there's a good pamphlet that for incoming students and parents, the costs for documentation is on the student. Some universities have been able to get things in place to alleviate some of those costs, but the actual legally, unfortunately, the cost actually does fall to the student or their family.
Okay, thank you. So my next question from the chat is, can each of the, no, I'm sorry, I didn't go to the other programs. So let me start with BRCC. Can you answer the same question about 504 and IEPs?
Sure. We do use the 504 and IEP as part of our admissions application. So, we can use a copy or something like that. So there's no additional charge.
Thank you. Next, UL Life.
We also, in the admissions process, review IEPs. Our students have intellectual disabilities and developmental disabilities, so we typically don't have students with 504s. It's more the full IEP, but we look at those in the admissions process and review those.
Thank you. Nichols.
Hi. For our program, we also do ask for the evaluation for our certificate program. Our students do have an intellectual disability within our CTP guidelines. So we do ask for the evaluation. We do accept the IEP for supplemental documentation also. And for our degree program, our students, we ask them also for an evaluation. The criteria for that program is for the student to be diagnosed with autism or ASD. And with those students who are going through disability services at the university, that's needed for their classroom and testing accommodations also.
Thank you. Southeastern.
We, like UL and Nichols, use, because our students have intellectual and developmental disabilities, we require the IEP basically to see where in the last evaluation, if the students had just exited high school, that'll be current, but if they've sat out a year, it might be a year old, but still we use that document. And we all have admission requirements, and one of our admission requirements is we can't have students that have severe behavior problems because we're a university campus. And so we use the IEP to see what was documented, behavior plans, medication, that type of stuff. So we rely on the IEP and the evaluation of students. We don't do 504 again because our students have intellectual and developmental disabilities that are in the Alliance Connected program.
Thank you, Dr. Beckers. Now we will have Cindy Haying. I think she's connected.
I believe so. Is that working? Yes. For our program, it depends on whether they're a student in the CTP program and have an intellectual disability and our auditing class. If so, we're able to take their most recent evaluation and IEP from school. If there's students that require accommodations in class because they're taking for credit because they're on the spectrum, they would have to meet the regular criteria for typical academic students. And what that would mean is that they will take the IEP for the first semester, but they're going to ask you to provide documentation that's within 3 years. If your senior year you had an evaluation and that testing is current, that's fine. If you are going to need to have your have your testing redone because it's older, then we're probably going to refer you to Louisiana Rehab Services or some other place if you need help finding the cost of that.
Thank you. And Cindy, can you also answer the question that we were asking earlier about your program? Why choose inclusive higher education?
Oh, so many reasons. One of the biggest ones is the fact that you're able to learn alongside your peers and you're able to make that transition from the expectations of high school to the expectations of the work world. Again, though the law changes between high school and college, and so often I've seen over the years students that had really big challenges because they walk into a job and they think they're going to have the same services they had in high school or the same expectations. And just like every other typical student, college is the time for growing up. And this is a wonderful way to do it and to be beside your peers, learning at the same time they're learning, what's going to be expected of you as you interact in the adult world. So inclusive higher education, it's a critical learning time for anyone at this age.
Okay, thank you very much. Now, another question for each of the programs, the higher ed options for individuals with disabilities. Can you please provide the cost of each program or an estimated cost? And we can start with, I'll just keep the same order, BRCC.
Hi, good morning. So roughly on average, the cost per semester is about $2,750. And that's noted on our webpage as well.
Okay, thank you. UL Life.
So our students register for hours within the university. So our students pay the same tuition that the entire university would pay if they were a 12-hour student, a 15-hour student. So that is about $5,000 per semester, right around there. And the same thing for our housing. Our housing cost is the exact same as it is for other students, even with the additional supports we offer.
Thank you very much. Nichols?
We also go with the university hours as far as how many hours the students are taking, depends upon their tuition and fees. Our certificate students, that's a 2-year program. They take 6 or 7 hours each semester. So that's around $1,200 or $1,500. Our degree students, they're going to take anywhere from 3, 6, 9 to full schedule at 12 or more hours. So that's whatever the university tuition and fees are. We do have a bridge fee, which pays for our staff, which is $2,055 per semester. And our housing cost for those that do choose to live on campus is the same as the university fees, and all of those fees and expenses can be found on the Nicholls State University website.
Thank you so much, Dr. Bro. Southeastern.
Southeastern, we have a $3,000 flat fee each semester. We service a lot of students who from high poverty areas, and they qualify because we are a certified transition program. They qualify for Pell. The majority of our students are on Pell grants, and And right now they get like $3,045 a semester for Pell, and that covers everything. It covers their class fees, we rent our textbooks. So it includes their textbook rental fee, it includes their student ID, everything's wrapped up in the $3,000 per semester. And the reason we keep that low is gives the students who otherwise would not have the opportunity to be in a post-secondary program because of financial reasons, the opportunity. And all of our fees are online on our webpage also.
Thank you, Dr. Beckers. Next, Bossier Parish Community College.
Yes, our students, as with several of the others, if you're taking academic classes, and most of our students take around six a semester, they'll have the typical tuition and fees that a student would at Bossier Parish Community College. The fee for our program supports for our staff and all the extra support we provide is $2,304 a semester, and that's on our website, as are the typical tuition and fees for the academic classes. Again, because we're a CTP, students would be eligible if their families are for Pell financing, and also Louisiana Rehab Services has been a resource for some of them for extra funding.
Okay, thanks. LSU Health and Science Center.
So with the paycheck program, the tuition and fees and books, they're covered by the student's high school or the school system. Services such as employment, pre-employment transition skills training, job development and placement, that's paid for by Louisiana Rehab Services.
Melanie, before you move on, I have a question for paycheck that was in the box. I don't think it was answered.
Yeah.
What districts, school districts do you work with?
So we work with Jefferson Parish schools. We also work with charter schools. So they would usually, if there's let's say there's a student who's interested and we haven't worked with the school system, then we usually coordinate to work with them. So we've worked with Orleans Parish School Board, and usually, I'll say generally just the Metairie, New Orleans, even we also serve on the West Bank too.
So you're out of LSU Human Development Center, and the students are from those school districts, and you provide the services is it Delgado?
Yes, at Delgado Community College, and just throughout the community. So Delgado Community College, that's where they take their courses, but we do community training, and also we help them while they're also on the job too, when they receive employment.
Thank you.
No problem.
Thank you. We have one more question in the chat box, and this one is from Kathy Dwyer. I came on late and may have missed it, but what are the costs so we just finished answering that question, so we're going to move on. So my next question is for Johnny Manella from BRCC. How do the internships work?
Great question. So after our first semester, typically, not always, but typically, once the students have received a variety of different training, including safety and so forth, then we, based on their initial interview, we try to assess what the students' interests are. And based on the different job sites that we have, we try to place them in a variety of different areas. And one of the things I've been doing this summer is unfortunately not being able to visit, but to actually speak with a lot of different potential employers to see if they are interested in partnering with us. So we're not looking for anything specific because a lot of our students have a lot of different interests. But one of the things I've been trying to set as a goal for the department is to be involved with much larger organizations. So some of the people that we have been in negotiations with are places like Bethany Church, Our Lady of the Lake Regional Medical Center, a company called Vivid Inc., some other churches, a writing therapy program, and so forth. So once we feel that we can match a student based on their interest with a particular internship, then we kind of go from there. We don't just drop them off and say you're on your own. We do work with them. We have a transition specialist, actually two, that will work with the students, make sure that they understand what their responsibilities are of that position. And then we coach them and guide them from there. And one of the things I like to remind the potential job sites and any supervisor is that this is a partnership and we need to work together. So we need to know if our students are struggling with a particular area or just need to kind of sit down and kind of talk a little bit, or maybe they need a different way or learn a different way of doing a particular job. And so we try to be as hands-on as we possibly can in order to make sure that they are successful, because if they don't feel like they're successful, then they're not going to put forth all the effort that is needed to complete the program.
Thank you. Sounds like you do a lot of work to keep them, have them prepared.
Yes.
Good. My next question is for Tim Delaney at McNeese. Tim, does your university offer priority registration for students with disabilities?
Yes, we do. All of our students, it's once you've been accepted to the university, it would be the following semester. You register with my office and you get priority registration. And you have to register at the beginning of every semester, to keep that qualified. And also I wanted to mention, talking about services a while ago, our services are free. They pay the same amount as everyone else does as far as tuition goes. We have free tutoring, math, sciences, a writing center, all that's free.
Very good. Thank you so much. Really quickly, I'm going to also ask this question from the chat. It says that LDOE has several diploma pathways. Does your university accept TOPS Tech diploma? And so maybe we could start with, I'm assuming it's for all panelists, so we can start with Tim, since you were there already.
I know that a lot of students are come to McNeese on TOPS. I'm not sure what TOPS Tech, what that is. I mean, you have to make the ACT score and the grade to get in. We're a closed admissions university, but if it's TOPS related, I would think so.
Okay. And Johnny at BRCC, do you know if they accept the TOPS Tech diploma?
I mean, TOPS Tech is accepted at the college in general, but I've never seen anybody as far as our program. As I mentioned earlier, most of our students come in through LRS, but TOPS Tech is an approved scholarship at BRCC in general, yes.
Thank you. How about UL Life?
Hey, we have never had a student with TOPS Tech diploma. Again, our students are coming in typically from the special education program at their school. And since we do serve students with intellectual and developmental disabilities, we typically see the certificate of achievements that the state provides, and then the Act 833 diplomas.
Thank you. Southeastern, Dr. Beckers.
We have an MOU with North Shore Technical Community College. So if students come with a TOPS Tech, they'd be eligible to go to North Shore, and chances are they're not eligible for admissions into Southeastern. So we would refer them on to North Shore. Like the other programs, because of our certification, if they're eligible for traditional enrollment in a university, or in that case, a technical community vocational school, they're not eligible for our post-secondary program because of the way that our programs are accredited. But we do have the technical piece that we refer, and we work closely with our vocational technical community college because we share the same campus to offer a lot of opportunities even for our Lions Connected students.
Okay, thank you. Cindy Haying.
again, we're in a similar situation. If they're coming in through through the comprehensive transition and post-secondary program, they generally have intellectual disabilities. And what we've been able to accept are students that have certificates of achievement. And we do have some students who most recently have earned the diplomas available through the April Dunn Act. And it's my understanding those students would also be eligible to enroll in academic classes.
Okay, thanks. Amarachi?
Yes, for our students as well, there's not really a requirement for the diploma that they receive, because most of our students, they are still enrolled in high school when they come into our program.
Okay, and Jada?
For Southern University as a whole, we are a four-year university, so I'm not sure if they take the top tech diploma there. 100%. I don't want to say yes or no because it may be by chance that they do. I know that we do not offer any vocational training at Southern. We are, again, a four-year institution where you're looking to get your BS or your BA degree. And so, unfortunately, at that time, I really can't answer it directly for that person.
Thank you very much. And so there was a comment that says, since the passage of the April Dunn Act, more of our students have been able to obtain the TOPS Tech diploma.
Melanie, can I weigh in on this one?
Yes. Oh, I'm sorry. I missed you.
That's okay. That's all right.
Okay.
The TOPS Tech diploma is primarily geared for students that are looking to go on to a vocational community college. The courses that they're going to take at the high school are going to be a little bit different from what they would need to apply and to be accepted to a university. So with our bridge program, with our certificate students, if someone came in with a TOPS Tech diploma and still met the ID, then yes, they could be accepted. Our certificate program does accept any type of high school diploma. Our students that are coming in for our degree program, they are accepted by the university prior to applying to Bridge. So we have had many families that have come and asked about the TOPS Tech diploma. And typically that is designed for the student to go to the vocational or community college. If that is what they do, they can start there and then they can transition to the university, but it is in line with the university admissions procedures.
Very good, Dr. Bro. Okay, Bambi has a question.
This is for Dr. Beckers. Dr. Beckers, I know that you received some funding through the Developmental Disabilities Council in regards to a consortium, I think. I'm not sure if I'm using the right terminology, but it's basically to help grow the number of programs we have for people with developmental disabilities on college or post-secondary campuses. Can you just share very briefly about that?
Yes, we have the funding, we call LAPI, Louisiana Post-Secondary Inclusive Education. It's an alliance, and all the post-secondary programs actually on this panel, we've all agreed, we're all part of the partnership of this alliance. And the goal is to promote more programs. I'm currently working with Dr. Danielle Williams at Grambling State University. And I can't pronounce his name, but Dr. Hapen at LSUA. They're starting or in the process of starting post-secondary programs on their campuses. And all my colleagues who have post-secondary programs, we've worked together. We've decided, because the universities are certified, we have a standard that we have to abide by for our accreditation. And so is Bossier City. And I know Johnny's working with the BRCC on their accreditation. So the alliance is to basically promote post-secondary programs. We work together to help universities who want to start programs. and just basically provide technical support, because I believe all of us who are on this panel believe in the post-secondary options for our students with disabilities, and just awareness that they're out there and what our students can have. And a lot of times parents just don't know. So what I ask parents, alumni, reach out to your universities, reach out to your communities and say, hey, why can't we have this program at our school in our area? So basically we have a web page and we have a Facebook page. It's called LAPI, Louisiana Post-Secondary Inclusive Education Alliance.
Thank you, Dr. Beckers. So our next question is going to be for Dr. Jurisic. What are the requirements for students to attend the PSE programs?
Okay, so the good news is that we all, as far as Southeastern and Nichols, and we've presented together multiple times, we all have very similar requirements. So, you know, what I say likely, they might have a few different things to add in if they go on to it. But we require students to have completed a high school education program, whether that be their special education program, whether that be, you know, a private school, that they have to have completed high school. And then we look at a couple of different things. We look at the evaluation because of our certification, as Dr. Brode and Dr. Beckers mentioned. And then we really start getting into age range too. So our program specifically is 18 to 25 upon entrance into the program. They must fall with that age range. We look at the students' behavior. So we look at that through the IEP. We look at that through contacting teachers and references. That's a big thing for, I think, all of our programs. Behavior being, you know, having to be in line with what is expected of a college university. And then we look at the individual student's desire. You know, I always tell parents and students that when a student is forced to continue their education, whether a student with a disability or our traditional college students, it's usually not successful if they don't want to be there. It's a struggle. It's difficult to get them to engage and motivate. So we really look at the student's desire. Are they wanting to be there? Do they have goals that they have for themselves that college will allow them to better reach those goals? That's a big thing for me personally. And then we look at, once we get into our advanced program, we have a basic and advanced. We do look at comprehension levels. We look at math skills, but the basic program, it's more of the whole student we're looking at. While they may not have the strongest comprehension skills, you know, they may bring something else to the table that's really strong. So it's a whole student kind of process, figuring out if they're, you know, going to be a good fit for the program.
Very good, very good. I'm going to read a comment really quickly. So Hyacinth McKee said that Dr. Beckers' LAPI will do many great things for our scholars and families. Thank you for working diligently, and we look forward to the success of the Alliance.
Thank you.
M. Johns asked a question. How do we get more information on eligibility for these programs, and which one may be the best fit for the student? Also, are there similar programs in the state that are not represented here today? And I think we try to make sure that each program that we have in the state is represented, but maybe somebody else can answer that.
I can answer, if give me 1 second. The LAPI website has all the programs that are current, the post-secondary programs. I'm not speaking for the Offices of Disability Affairs or Offices of Accessibility, but all the PSE programs, we have links off the LAPI Alliance to those programs. And what is there is what currently exists, except LSUA and Grambling are working diligently to start programs. So that's one location where you can see kind of a snippet of all the programs. And the people who are on this panel for those programs, their contact information is there.
Thank you, Dr. Beckers. We have one more comment from Louisiana Parent Training and Information. No, I'm sorry. Louisiana Parent Training and Information Center is a program of families helping families of Greater New Orleans. Our new grant has a post-secondary goal, and we'd love to work with all of you to ensure students are aware of the post-secondary options. Thank you for that comment. We have about 6 minutes left. I do have more questions, but I would like to really give each program an opportunity to maybe, if you want to, if there's some pitch or information you'd like to throw out there before we close the session, you can go ahead and have an opportunity to do so now. And anybody can jump in, and I don't want to go through the list in case there is not something that you'd like to close with.
I'll go ahead and start it off. The Bridge to Independence program at Nicholls State University, our certificate program, the age limit is 18 to 28 upon entering. There is no age limit for our degree program of Bridge. We are looking for levels of independence. Our program is fully inclusive. We do want our students to have the desire for employment and individualized independent living upon completion. We have a Facebook page, Bridge to Independence at Nicholls State University, and we usually have in-person semester seminars. We were not able to do those last semester, but we are looking to do those this semester with Zoom. So Facebook is probably the best place to look, and if you don't have that, you can email me at any time. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Mary.
I think the main goal for all of our programs is to let parents, caregivers, families, whatever that may be, that there are options for their kids, as I call everybody, out there past high school. I know that we try to visit as many high schools as we can, guidance counselors, try to speak in many places as we possibly can. We're hoping to do an open house. Of course, with COVID, we never know what that's going to look like. But as a parent of a special needs child who recently finished this program, our hopes are that we do foster independence and give them the courage and whatever boost they may need to further on. My son actually completed his first online class this summer at BRCC and is registered for 2 more classes this fall. So we work very hard with him, and he is excited about the challenges. And again, we just want other parents to know that there are options for their kids out there. They just need to really reach out or contact the different colleges and universities.
I have to add something from a different perspective, because I am a full-time faculty member at Southeastern, that for parents, advocates, and anyone who's out there, the people who are on this panel, we do the post-secondary. But as a faculty member, it's so important for the high school teachers and agencies to work with the students on the self-advocacy, because once they start college, we have these, the Office of Disability Services, accessibility. If the students don't advocate for themselves, their parents can no longer come up there and say, hey, my kid needs. So like I think Cindy had said, there's that strong divide between high school and college. And we need the students to be able to advocate, to know what's available, to go to these different offices who are there willing to help. But the students have to be able to advocate and say, this is what I need. And once they get the accommodations, to be able to follow through with the accommodations if they're not getting their tests read, they're not getting extended time. And so I think that's really important for all students with disabilities who are entering a post-secondary program, traditional program.
Thank you so much, Dr. Beckers. We may have time for one more closing statement.
Yeah, this is Ben Trent from LSU. I think everyone here, their overall goal is for our students to be successful, complete the program, and or depending on what program it is, to graduate. One thing I would say for anyone who's considering, especially coming in this fall, is to get registered with the program, the Disability Services Office, get the documentation in, get that done as soon as possible. We have a lot of students who wait until they arrive, and then by the time they've gotten their documentation submitted, gotten registered, it may be weeks into the semester, not because we take long to process it, but it may take long to get it from the school, it may take long to get it from the doctor, and it sets them behind. So I really would encourage students to get started as soon as possible, to go ahead and get registered this summer so they can hit the ground running.
Thank you so much. And we'll go ahead and give Jada, I saw you were going to speak at the same time. So we'll give you a minute.
Yes. I'm just going to add on to what Dr. Beckers and Mr. Benjamin said. Students need to start early with doing the process for registering with the Office of Disability Services in post-secondary education and higher education. I also agree with Dr. Beckers. We need students to be better advocates for themselves. I have a lot of situations right now where parents are calling and want to advocate for their student, but the student is the one that actually needs to be advocating for themselves, because once we provide the information or provide the letters or approve the accommodations, they have to be the ones to go and talk with their professors to make sure that they understand how those accommodations are going to be implemented in each course, because from professor to professor, it may look a little differently. So we want to make sure that our students understand that in this course, the professor will implement it in this way, and that they will be permitted to take their tests with the Office of Disability Services. But right now, I still have a lot of parent interaction where they are trying to do the advocating for their student at the higher ed level. And it really should be the student themselves.
Thank you so much. So this is going to close our session on higher ed. Thank you all for being here. You provided some really great information. So hopefully people will be reaching out to you all and flooding your programs. Thank you so much. We look forward to seeing you again here next year.
Melanie, before we close and people get off, can we get, and I'll say this so the interpreters can say this on the screen, if all of the panelists would put on their cameras and the interpreters can turn off their cameras. We won't speak when they turn on their cameras. And that way, I think that would be a great visual for our newsletter to have all your beautiful faces on the screen. So Sylvie, you turn off the camera. Thank you.
You all look so beautiful.
Let me see if it's coming. Yeah, it's coming up.
I'm going to use that on my bridge page too on Facebook.
I'm trying to find my snippet here.
Like, she should probably tell y'all when she's going to snap it, right?
I think I got everyone. There's 8 people, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
Well,
got it. Thank you.
because Cindy could not get on with her video. All
No,
right,
that's right.
guys.
Thank you.
And interpreters, you can come back on so we can give instructions for the next session. So we'll continue to have our YouTube streaming, and we'll have Zoom. You can stay in Zoom, that'll continue on. Our next session is supported decision-making, which is a law that's just newly passed in Louisiana, and also some other legal options for people as they go into adulthood. So please stay on, and we'll be back at 10 o'clock. Thanks.
Bambi, do you mind if Landon and I come back in a little bit? We want to adjust our lighting.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. Now it's
Yes, it's on right now.
looks good.
Jamar, can you share the visual for the next panel?
Jamar, were you doing YouTube?
Oh, Bambi, are you still on?
I'm still on.
Yeah, also, we're having a hard time switching just because all the little boxes are there. Whereas yesterday it was only whoever was speaking, whoever had their camera on was on the screen. Now we're moving around a lot and we're having a hard time catching up with each other. So
I don't know what I didn't do anything different. So what,
Sylvie,
I thought you control what you see.
that's what I was gonna say. I don't know if you can look like at the little menu bar above, like right now. There's like different. There's like a gallery view. And then
Yeah.
there's a picture view. Sylvie, I have mine set on the one that shows the two little bars, one on top of the other, and it seems to be okay right now for me. But the more people that come on the screen, the smaller I get.
right. But yesterday, because now I see everybody who's connected, whether they're on or not, whether the camera is on or not, they're all in there. And
oh, you know what you have to do, Sylvie? I think you have to do hide. There's a button where you do hide people who aren't showing their camera.
Yeah.
You have to
Okay,
do
where
that.
is that? Because I need to.
I don't see that. I thought that is a setting when you set the meeting. I thought that was a setting when you.
Maybe that might be.
Click on a
Look down at the bottom left where there's the mute and the stop video buttons. There's one on the video. There's a little arrow up that you can click on video settings. I think that's in there.
If you click on the little three little dots on anybody's picture who's not showing video.
No, I found it. I found it. Landon was right there. There it is. Oh, that's
okay. Good.
It was mine. I'm sorry. I thought it was the meeting setup because sometimes there's certain things that are that way. It was mine. Thank you.
Okay, good.
Okay. See you back in 7 minutes.
Okay.
Okay, Bambi, I have a question. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, so when I share my screen, is my camera still going to be up as I'm talking, or does my camera? It does. Okay.
So whenever you're going to show your PowerPoint, you'll be in the top little corner of our in YouTube. But what I'm recording, which will be posted later, will include the interpreter as well. So people who need interpreters now can log into Zoom and be able to access the interpreters that way. And then for later, whenever it's shared on our YouTube channel, we'll upload the recording of it with the interpreter in it. So
gotcha.
It's accessible both ways.
Awesome. Okay.
Okay.
So I've had some trouble with share screen. I'm going to practice real quick if you don't mind.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. So this will stop other screen sharing. Do you want to continue? Will that stop this? I guess it'll.
Oh, yeah, so I could stop it, yeah, okay.
Okay,
stop.
so let's see.
And now you can.
This laptop doesn't respond when I want it to, is what I'm really struggling with. Okay, can you see the?
Yep, and you can leave it up for now, that way people know what's coming up.
Okay, good deal. Isn't Chaz going to one of the programs?
He's going to UL Life, yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, they're doing a good job of, they're doing like meetings, Zoom meetings with all the students like on Wednesdays until school starts, I guess, to get, get them prepared. And
yeah.
So it's really going well.
Is he staying on campus, or is that changed with COVID, or?
No, he's not gonna stay. Yeah, it's only about 25 miles from my house. So my other
that's not
son's
bad.
going there too, so.
Gotcha, so they can like carpool.
Yeah.
Very cool. And I think Melanie is on from Disability Rights.
Yes, I see her. Hey, Melanie.
She's on.
Hi, good morning.
Hey, so when you pick up on slide, I think it's 6. I'll try and just move it, or if you just want to tell me like next slide, I can just, does that work?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Okay.
Do that. No problem. Thank you. Trying to turn off all of my other sound notifications so that I don't get phone calls, message alerts while we're doing this.
I know, I was waiting for a call from a doctor, and I'm so glad he called. He called within the last 2 minutes of the previous presentation. So I'm so glad he called earlier than what he has been calling.
Yeah.
Good morning, ladies. Ashley, Melanie, thank y'all for participating.
Sure.
Is there a preference on who goes first, who goes second?
Well, I think
the way the PowerPoint is, oh, go ahead.
I just said I think it's based on the slides.
Jamar, they did their
So I'll
presentation
start
together.
Okay, so it's a joint effort?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Hey, this is Landon. If y'all want to just let me know right before y'all get ready to start, I'll jump in and be ready to interpret.
Nicole, did you have a question? guess we'll go ahead and get started. Okay, great. Well, good morning, everyone. My name is Jamar Lanier Ennis. I'm the Assistant Director of the Governor's Office of Disability Affairs. And on behalf of our department, we'd like to welcome you to the Supported Decision-Making and Other Legal Options session. This session will last from 10:50 to 10 o'clock to 10:50, so it'll be 50 minutes. We ask that you submit your questions that you may have either in the YouTube comment section, or if you're on the Zoom, in the question and answer session or the chat. And we will do our best to monitor and get you the answers to your questions. At this time, we'd like to introduce our panelists. Ms. Ashley McReynolds. She is the Program Director of the Independent Living Research Utilization at the ARC of Louisiana. She is a mother of a child with a developmental disability and co-occurring mental health diagnosis. She was a key contributor on the vision and drafting of the now Dustin Gary's Act of 2020. And prior to working at the ARC of Louisiana, she was a statewide LACAN leader and regional leader for 7 years. She sits on many stakeholder groups and advisory committees. She was a previous member of the Governor's Advisory Council of Disability Affairs. Our next panelist is attorney Melanie Bray. Melanie is originally from New York State and came to New Orleans in 2013. Prior to her move in New Orleans, she graduated from Columbia College with a bachelor's degree in psychology and criminal justice. After that, she earned a master's degree in criminal justice, securities, and administrations from the University of Phoenix. Melanie graduated from Loyola College of New Orleans for law school in 2016 and passed the Louisiana State Bar that same year. Melanie currently works at Disability Rights Louisiana, a nonprofit law firm, and the Protection Advocacy Agency for the state of Louisiana, serving individuals with disabilities throughout the state. Melanie currently works on a variety of cases, including Medicaid eligibility and associated services, as well as rights protections for individuals with disabilities. She also works on a number of cases, including interdiction or advocating for less restrictive options as supported decision-making. Melanie is also working on a major class action case pertaining to the treatment of prisoners with mental illness. So at this time, we'd like to turn things over to our panelists, and we will continue to monitor the chats for any questions that you may have at home.
Great, thanks, Jamar. Just a heads up, our PowerPoint presentation is a little lengthy. We've done our best to cut it down to the bare minimum to get y'all the most information as possible about the Dustin Gary Act and supported decision making. So if we do not get to questions, I'm hoping we can get the questions, but both of our email addresses and contact information are in the PowerPoint. So please feel free to reach out with questions, but I'm hoping we can get through the whole thing. Okay, so what is supported decision-making? If you really think about supported decision-making, it's really just a fancy way to describe the way we all make decisions. Basically, it's getting help when help is needed. Supported decision-making will allow an individual that has a disability to maintain their rights and make their own decisions with the support of a team that they get to choose, of people that they trust and know that they will help them with making decisions in all daily life areas. And it's going to be an alternative to tutorship and interdiction here in Louisiana. So when we think about it, we all use supported decision-making every day. We seek help with our taxes. We ask questions about health issues. We call our friends and family members when we have questions that we need a little guidance on. Bottom line is we all use it every day. And even with the support and help from our friends and families, all of us still make bad choices. So here's some facts. We do know that when individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities are denied control, they end up feeling helpless, hopeless, and they tend to be self-critical. Unfortunately, the cultures over the last 1,500 years have instilled this mentality of, well, we're going to do it because it's for your own good. Since this practice has been in place, it has led to the number of 18-year-olds with an intellectual developmental disability being interdicted tripling since 1995. When individuals use supported decision-making, the studies have shown and proven that it improves the health outcomes for individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities. These individuals are also more independent and well-adjusted. They maintain gainful employment and share that they feel safer and more secure. So the principles behind supported decision-making, the big one is that there's no one-size-fits-all model for supported decision-making. Much like an individualized education plan or an IEP, they're very individualized and based on the individual who is going with supported decision-making, what their needs are, how many people they want to support them. But all of those people that they decide are going to be a part of their team are people that they trust. They can be family members, they can be professionals, friends, other advocates that are going to help them understand the situations that they're going to face, and choices and options that they have so that they can make an informed decision on their own. The right for supported decision-making should not depend on the quality of any decision that is made. Like I talked about earlier, we all make poor choices, even with support from our friends and our family and professionals that we seek for guidance. And now I'm going to turn it over to Melanie.
Hi, good morning. So right now we are in a great time that we have just gotten the opportunity to use supported decision-making in Louisiana. Prior to this, the only options that were available were continuing tutorships, powers of attorney, and of course, interdictions. Next slide. Thank you. So a continuing tutorship, in the law, it's eligible for persons who are, excuse me, over the age of 15, but under the age of 18, who, and the law is real ugly in terms of this, 2/3 of the average mental ability of a normal person of the same age. Basically, the requirement for continuing tutorship is the individual's between 15 and 18 and has an intellectual impairment or a developmental disability and meets the standards for services. There isn't really a need for continuing tutorship to be put into place because, as we all know, before the age of 18, you're a minor. So this doesn't really buy parents anything additional that they didn't otherwise have. They can participate in their child's decisions. They can advocate for their children. They can be a part of the IEP process, all of that. Even after the child turns 18, if the child says, I want my mom here, or I want my dad involved, or I want my aunt involved, the child after the age of 18 becomes a competent major and can advocate for themselves to include other persons. So the continuing tutorship, again, when you're a minor, you don't have any of these rights anyway. But the continuing tutorship gives you the rights of a child. You're unable to vote. You are unable to independently make your medical decisions. You're unable to own property. And the
powers of administration. So effectively entering into a legal contract with someone else. Next slide, please. So another less restrictive option to interdiction is powers of attorney. So a power of attorney is a document that the individual confers authority upon another individual to make decisions. It does not take away the individual's right to make their decisions. It just provides a legal source of authority for another person to make decisions on their behalf. The decision that the other person makes has to be in alignment with the individual who's given the power of attorney. A competent major can grant a power of attorney, allowing the representative to act in any way they want them to. So if the individual wants help with financial matters and would prefer if, this other person would just manage their bank account and pay their bills, they can grant a power of attorney, a financial power of attorney that specifically sets forth what they want the other person to just take care of for them. And then that individual essentially has this permission slip that they can hand to the bank and say, I have the authority to make these decisions and to manage this account. The individual who has granted the power of attorney can always step in and manage their affairs themselves, even if the other individual has the authority to do so. A power of attorney can be revoked at any time. At any time the individual decides, never mind, I can handle this, or I want somebody else to do this, I've changed my mind. They can always revoke it, write a new one, not have one at all. Not a problem. It's a very simple process. Let's see. So regarding medical care, all persons have a fundamental right to control decisions relating to their mental care. When I say all persons, I mean competent majors over the age of 18. This power of attorney can grant a right to another person to make the decisions that the individual would have made if it comes to a point that the individual is unable to express those decisions. So think about, future planning, and if one day you develop dementia or Alzheimer's and you are no longer able to express to the doctors what your wishes are, the power of attorney has been created by you with what your desires are, and therefore the other person can just enforce what it is that you want. You can grant the right to withdraw or withhold life-sustaining procedures. So effectively a DNR. You can change whatever special circumstances you have. So if there's, for religious purposes, you don't want particular procedures done, you can put that into your power of attorney, and then the individual can give that to your doctor and the hospital, and then everyone will know what you want. Next. So there's two types of power of attorney. There's a durable and a springing. A durable power of attorney is effective immediately. There's no requirement that the individual giving the power of attorney must become incapacitated before the authority takes effect. So this is, if, like I said, you want someone else to manage your bank account and all of your financial affairs, you can do a durable financial power of attorney, and that effectively just kind of hands over that right to the individual to have them do it for you. A springing power of attorney, on the other hand, only becomes effective after the individual has deemed incapacitated by a medical professional. So if the individual fell into a coma or developed dementia or Alzheimer's, or was severely ill and couldn't communicate decisions, that is when the power of attorney would become effective. And then the springing power of attorney would stop being effective once the individual regained capacity. Next slide. So then we get to the interdiction. An interdiction is the most restrictive remedy on someone's rights. The United States Supreme Court has referred to interdiction as civil death. The law provides that for an interdiction to be appropriate, the individual has to be either 18 or older, so a competent major, or a legally emancipated minor. The individual has to be unable to consistently make reasoned decisions regarding the care of person and or property, or unable to communicate those decisions in a manner that's understandable by others. And unable to care for their person and or property due to an infirmity. So for the infirmity, the condition must be serious enough to cause significant impairment on the exercise of judgment. Chronic substance abuse could qualify, but advanced age alone does not. So simply because you are 93 years old is not alone sufficient grounds for interdiction. The requirements in interdiction law for interdiction to be appropriate are actually a pretty high bar. Unfortunately, they're not always strictly applied in the Louisiana courts. So we end up finding that there are a lot of individuals that become interdicted, and they don't actually need to be. So an interdiction is when you transfer all of your legal rights to another person. You retain none of them. It doesn't, in the law, does not deprive the interdict of free will. But a lot of times the curator, who is the person who is put in charge of the interdict, will go beyond the legal decisions and utilize an interdiction for all decisions. The rights that are lost under a full interdiction, the right to contract, the right to marry, the right to accept or renounce a succession, the right to sue or be sued, the right to vote, and a number of other rights, such as the right to drive, the right to consent to medical treatment, the right to leave the state without permission, the right to decide where you get to live, the right to decide who you get to live with. In some cases, as I said, the curators will extend this authority to even cover the right to decide what you eat, or the right to decide what you wear, or what you watch. Next slide, please. So there is an option that was created. It's called a limited interdiction. It's less intrusive than full interdiction, but it is still the complete removal of certain rights. What makes it limited is it's specific as to what right you're handing over to another person. The court confers only those powers required that are required to protect the interests of the interdict. So you can limit an interdiction as to your person, so making medical decisions or deciding where you live, or something to that effect, or as to your property. So financial, for your bank accounts, for your social security payments, and property as in like real property or successions. And the qualifications for an interdiction still apply. So unable to consistently make reasoned decisions regarding one of these things, one of these areas, and it's sufficient enough that it requires someone else to make the decisions for you. Go ahead, next slide. So some really important things that need to be remembered when considering interdictions. The part in the law where it talks about reasoned decisions does not mean the best decisions. Risky decisions, poor decisions, bad decisions, not sufficient reasons for interdiction. Everyone has the right to make mistakes, and everyone has the right to make bad decisions. If the individual is unable to consistently make reasoned decisions, not good decisions, reasoned. So that means that they need to understand the method and consequences of the actions that they're about to take prior to taking the action. If they're unable to consistently recognize the steps involved and the consequences of the decision that they're making, that's what that portion refers to. If this week an individual decides to spend every last cent in their bank account gambling on internet poker, but next week they open a savings account. That's not consistent. So it's really important that we remember that all people have the right to make bad decisions. And in order to rise to the level of interdiction, it has to be consistent. The other part that is real important to remember for interdiction is unable to communicate the reasoned decisions. So if the individual can communicate in any form, whether it's verbal, nonverbal, sign, they write notes, they have their own method of communicating, whatever it is, if they are able to communicate their decisions, then they do not qualify for interdiction. So the alternatives to all of these much more restrictive options, next slide, we now have supported decision making. And I'll turn it back over to Ashley.
Okay, let me see if I can start my video again. Okay. Thanks, Melanie.
Sure.
Okay, so the new law that was just passed and goes into effect August 1st is the Dustin Gary Act. This is a picture of Dustin Gary. He's a young man with Down syndrome, lives in Region 9, and super excited that we got to name this after him. And he will probably be one of the first to use supported decision-making once the law is effective, August 1st. So who supported the Dustin Gary Act? All of us that are listed on the screen work together. Representative Paula Davis, who picture you see is the author of House Bill 361. And it was also co-authored by several representatives and some senators. This piece of legislation had zero opposition. It was definitely supported by every legislator. It was really exciting and gave people with disabilities an opportunity to sort of celebrate something this session, a session that was very different from all of us that were not able to go in person and attend at the Capitol and celebrate a win for sure. So House Bill 361 definitely reformed interdiction in Louisiana. And it was supported decision-making was identified as an alternative to guardianship and interdiction by the Louisiana legislature. There is a link to the bill right there in the PowerPoint. So the basic significant changes to this piece of legislation were that when you are going to petition the courts for an interdiction, individuals are now going to have to prove to the courts that a less restrictive means, such as supported decision-making, if it wasn't tried, why wasn't it tried? So a description of the petitioner's efforts can include that, the less restrictive means for meeting the defendant's needs that were considered just did not work. If it was not considered or implemented, the reason why it was not considered or implemented, and then the reason why the less restrictive means is going to be insufficient to meet the needs of the defendant. And this is straight pulled from the law. So supported decision-making is going to help people with disabilities understand information and issues and make informed choices. It's going to focus the attention specifically on making decisions. It's going to help them with weighing their options. It's going to ensure that the decisions that they make are based on their own preferences and desires and not somebody else's. And they'll be able to communicate those decisions to other individuals as well. So according to the law, an adult that has a disability is defined by the American with Disabilities Act, or the ADA, and has attained 18 years of age, or who is an emancipated minor, can enter into a supported decision-making agreement. So how do you know if supported decision-making is going to work for you or your child? Well, just like everything else, you're really not going to know until you give it a try. And we should presume that everybody, including those with intellectual and developmental disabilities, they have the right to make their choices, and everybody's going to need support. And until they are proven otherwise, they need to be given that ability to make their own choices. The National Guardianship Association, which is made up of guardians and conservators, says that they should try supported decision-making before ever seeking an interdiction. So some questions to think about when the individual is trying to figure out who a good supporter would be. First of all, it's going to be somebody that person trusts, and that person is going to be willing to go on the journey of implementing supported decision-making. Someone who accepts and supports that individual and the family, someone who has knowledge in a particular area that the individual is seeking to include in the supported decision-making document. So it could be financial, it could be medical, whatever that individual is looking at needing support in. Someone that can be available long-term. Supported decision-making is a lifelong agreement. While supporters may change throughout the use of supported decision-making, because it can be revoked by either the individual and or the supporter at any time. But when an individual signs up, unless there's something serious going on, that supporter should, expect to be a part of it through the individual's life. And someone who's flexible and open and can make, the individual the agent of change. So a supporter can do any or all of the following. Again, this is straight from the law. It can provide supported decision-making by including assistance in understanding their options, responsibilities, consequences, if they, choose to make the decision or choose not to make the decision. They can assist in accessing, collecting any information that the individual is going to need to make the best decision for them. This can include any type of medical, psychological, financial, and educational treatment records. Assist the adult in understanding the information that's being described and provided to them, and assist the adult in communicating the adult's decisions to the appropriate people once that decision is made. They cannot exert undue influence upon the adult. They cannot obtain without the consent of the adult any of the information that's going to be needed, about a specific decision. They cannot act outside the scope of the authority that's provided in the supported decision-making agreement. And they could not obtain without the consent any non-public personal information on the adult. So what should the agreement contain? The agreement shall contain all of the following information. It must have the name, the address, and the phone number of at least one supporter, and a description of the decision-making assistance that a supporter shall provide the adult. And if there are multiple supporters, how all of those supporters are going to work together to truly create a team approach to supported decision-making to help that individual. So like I talked about earlier, there can and should be more than one supporter. depending on all of the areas that the individual is looking to get support in. Appoint an alternate to act in the place of a supporter, just in case, circumstances come up, situations occur. So just to have a backup plan. Of course, the authorization of a supporter to share information with any of the other supporters or other people that are listed in that specific agreement. So the supporters can talk together, especially if you're looking at financials and say you have another supporter to help you with, your peers and where you want to live and who you want to live with. It might be good for those individuals to work together. So the people who are helping that individual with finding an apartment can also, have some knowledge about that individual's financial situation. The supported decision-making agreement is and must be an authentic act that is signed by the adult or by the adult's guardian if the adult lacks capacity under Louisiana Civil Code 1918. Did I go backwards? Okay, so how is this different from a power of attorney? The person with a disability and the supporter enter into the agreement voluntarily. The supported decision-making agreement is more informal and it does not require going to court, but it does have to be notarized. In a supported decision-making agreement, the person with a disability retains the rights to make all of their decisions. And, someone else will not ever make decisions for the individual. The individual will always retain the rights to make their own decisions. So confidential information, supporters authorized to assist the adult with a disability to access and collect information that is needed when looking at making decisions. This includes protected health information under HIPAA and any and all educational records that are protected under FERPA. The supporter must ensure that information is kept privileged and confidential and is never subject to unauthorized access, use, or disclosure. A supported decision-making agreement does not prevent an adult with a disability from seeing personal information on his or her own without the assistance of a supporter. So there's a couple of ways that a supported decision-making agreement can end. The adult subject of the supported decision-making agreement passes away. The adult decides to revoke the agreement, or one of the named supporters revokes his or her participation in writing without naming a successor supporters. A court of competent jurisdiction might determine that the adult does not have the capacity to execute or consent to a supported decision-making agreement. And this would be when this is tried and it has not been successful and that individual is being, going on to interdiction. The adult can sign a valid durable power of attorney in whole or part within the supported decision-making agreement. And we're going to talk a little bit about using supported decision-making across multiple documents. We talked about revoking. It can be revoked. The adult can revoke the agreement at any time. If that is going to happen, just like in creating the agreement and the supported decision-making document, revocation of the supported decision-making agreement must also be in the form of an authentic act that is dated and signed and notarized. The supporter can also, revoke at that. It's just like the individual with the disability can at any time. and it still has to be notarized, dated, and signed. Does an agreement guarantee informed consent? No, it does not. The supporter is going to assist the person with a disability to better understand and communicate what is needed to provide informed consent. And the supporter may be able to help this person with a disability overcome a bias that unfortunately plagues, individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities everywhere, that they lack the capacity to make their own decisions. So can supported decision-making be used with other alternatives? And that is yes. Supported decision-making can be used in conjunction, such as power of attorney. And this is consistent with the goal of supported decision-making to promote the self-determination of people with intellectual developmental disabilities and to avoid interdictions. So some important things to remember. This law, the Destin-Gary Act, presumes that all adults have the capacity for decision-making, including people with intellectual and developmental disabilities. Decision-making is a learned skill, and people with disabilities need the opportunity and they need the experience and support to learn to make well-informed decisions. We all did. We all still do. They're no different than us. It's going to require building and maintaining a trusting relationship between the person that's using supported decision-making and their supporters. It's going to require time and commitment and open communication for everybody involved in the agreement. So here are some additional resources. The National Resource for Supported Decision-Making has a lot of information. It talks about all of the different states that have passed laws related to supported decision-making. And you will see that not all the laws are the same. They do vary. And the ARC-US also has some information on their website about it as well. If y'all have any questions, feel free to call us here at the ARC of Louisiana. That's our number. And then Disability Rights Louisiana, and there's their phone number. So that is it. We did finish in time, and we'll have some time for some questions. So I'm gonna.
Thank you very much for the presentation, ladies. There are a few questions that are listed in the YouTube streaming site and also the chat.
Okay.
All right. We're going to start off, and I'm pretty sure this was already answered, but I know some people may have joined in late. What is the legal effect of interdiction?
The legal effect of interdiction is, if it's a full interdiction, it's essentially the stripping of all rights away. So if you think about your rights as like a bundle of sticks, you have all of these different rights: right to vote, right to make healthcare decisions, manage your own finances. All of those things are in a bundle, and a full interdiction is you're just taking that whole bundle and it's being taken away from you by someone else. And then that other person has that whole bundle and makes all of the decisions for you. A limited interdiction only takes away those rights that the court determines that you are unable to consistently make on your own. So either as to property or as to your person.
Okay, thank you. Another question that we have, and this could go to either one of you, feel free to answer it if appropriate. There's a pop-up that came up through my email. I apologize. I couldn't see the question. Will supported decision-making need to be in place prior to an individual with disabilities' 18th birthday?
No. So in the law, the individual has to have reached the age of 18.
Great, thank you. Another question is from one of our participants in the YouTube is, okay, I'll start my video. If an individual with disabilities under supported decision-making has multiple individuals listed, who has the ultimate power?
In supported decision-making, the individual retains all of their rights. They have the sole authority to make the decision. The supporters are solely there to help answer questions that the individual has about the decision that they're trying to make. But the individual is in charge of making those decisions. So supporters just there to help give guidance on, like, let's say the individual is, looking at, starting up a savings account or a bank account, and they're not sure how much they should put, in either, and they're saving up, they want to save up money to get a certain item. So they would look to their supporter that they have chosen to help them in financial situations, talk with that supporter. And even if the supporter says, okay, you're wanting to save $2,000, so I think you need to put $150 a month, into your savings account so you don't have to wait so long to get this desired item. Well, that individual can say, well, I'm only going to put $50 in because I want to have more money in my checking account. Not to say that that was a bad decision. They're just going to have to wait a bit longer to get that desired item, but the individual makes those decisions at the end of the day.
Yeah, I think the important point to remember with the supported decision-making is it's completely unlike interdiction, or in other states, it's called guardianship, or even the continuing tutorship. The rights, there are no rights being taken away from the individual. The individual is simply identifying his or her support group. Mm-hmm. And these are the humans that are going to help me make decisions when I have questions. No one is making decisions for the individual.
Right.
Thank you. We have another question. How do I apply to participate in supported decision-making? Is it solely for people, is it for all people with disabilities?
So you don't have to apply anywhere. It is for any individual with a disability that is at least 18. And if you look at the two websites that we posted in the PowerPoint, they have supported decision-making agreement samples that other states have used. We do not have an official Louisiana sample document, but when we were working through the process, we provided the legislature and other individuals a copy of what Texas created. But every individual supporting decision-making agreement is going to look different based on what that individual wants support in. So you basically are going to decide who your people are, have all of that information written down. The law requires certain things, so the name, the address, and then you get it notarized. There's not an official application or a process, other than getting all the signatures, getting it notarized, and then you have your, that's your agreement.
Thank you. We have another question here.
Jamar.
Yes.
There's also that question and answer section. I don't know if you want to switch them up from the chat.
Yeah, let's do that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we have a good question here. How does the POA power of attorney differ from a mental health mandate?
So the power of attorney is the individual is authorizing another person to make whatever decision they designate on their behalf. So it's essentially a permission slip to do whatever the thing in the power of attorney is. So I give my mom permission to open and close all my bank accounts and pay all of my bills. A mental health mandate is not a power of attorney. That pertains more to competency and inpatient stays and things like that, when individuals with significant mental illness are require treatment and may not. Some diagnoses don't allow the individual to understand that they need the treatment, that the treatment is necessary. They're unable to recognize their condition and the symptoms of the condition, and the mental health mandate really speaks more to that for the person's well-being rather than the power of attorney.
Thank you. We have another question from the Q&A chat log. Explain further the use of supported decision-making and power of attorney combined, as one of you mentioned previously in the presentation.
Can you say the question again, Jamar?
Sure.
Explain
further the use of supported decision-making and power of attorney combined, as one of you presented on earlier. I guess the question is saying that, or asking,
how do they work together?
Yeah.
Melanie, do you want to take that one from a
Sure.
legal perspective?
Sure. The power of attorney is it's a legal permission slip. The power of attorney shows third parties that you have legal authority to act on behalf of the individual who granted the power of attorney. So I keep using the bank example because that's often the most common entity that requires some legal document to show you have authority to do things. The supported decision-making agreement is simply this agreement that says, these are the people that help me make my decisions. But you can't take a supported decision-making agreement and go to the bank to do something, because the supported decision-making agreement isn't giving that person the right to act on your behalf. It simply says, this is my advisor on this topic. Whereas the power of attorney is the permission slip to do things in place of the grantor of the power of attorney. So I guess to round that out, the way that they would work together is you would have this team of advisors, and then the power of attorney would give that authority to whoever you needed to give authority to ensure that your needs were being met and that all of your services were being provided for.
Great. We have a few minutes left and we have time for maybe one more question. Okay, and we have a few questions that we won't have time to get to. So I encourage everyone to maybe drop a question in the Q&A so that the panelists can see them and have an opportunity to answer your questions offline.
Sure.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Let's see. We have a question relative to the supported decision-making opportunity. And the question is, does it interfere with individuals with disabilities receiving Medicaid and SSDI benefits?
Nope. In what way were they thinking it would interfere? Does it say
No,
anything,
and
or?
it does not. However, I do encourage the the inquiring party to reach out to you, either you or Ms. Bray offline to get
Okay.
this answered.
And I think if I'm still sharing my screen, which I think I am, I left it on the page that has our contact information and our emails, correct?
Yes. And
Okay.
also, we want to make known that this PowerPoint is available for all of you who are interested in retaining the information. We have to, we're out of time, so we're going to have to cut this session a little bit short since we're out of time. So at this time, we'd like to thank our panelists for making the time to give this valuable information to all of our participants today, and for sharing the PowerPoint. And I certainly encourage you to reach out to the panelists if you have any other questions that were unanswered today. Thank you. We will see you all in a few minutes as we prepare for the next session.
Thank you.
Thanks, y'all.
Jamar, can you put up the slide for the next session, please? Hi, everyone. For our panelists, what I'll ask you to do is turn off your camera as I'm at the beginning, as I'm introducing you. And when I say your name, you turn your camera on so that people can see who I'm talking about as I'm doing the brief introduction of you guys. And then I think you have a PowerPoint, is that correct? And we'll,
Yeah. Yes, Bambi, I have it and I'll share my screen.
okay, so as soon as I do the introductions, you just show your video, what I'm talking about you, doing the introductions of each one of you, and then you can share your screen and you can proceed through your presentation.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we'll go ahead and get started. This is our session on vocational rehabilitation services during the pandemic. And we appreciate that Louisiana Rehabilitation Services staff are willing to do this presentation and provide us with much needed information. Make sure that our interpreters are showing on the screen. Okay, got it. Okay, so first I'll introduce Melissa Baham.
Hi, everybody.
Melissa is a Rehabilitation Services Director from, the Rehabilitation Services Director for Louisiana Rehabilitation Services, or commonly known as LRS. She graduated from the University of North Texas in 2007 with a degree in rehabilitation counseling, and she is a certified rehabilitation counselor. Next, we have Shelley Hebert. Melissa, can you stop your video? Okay, we have Shelley Hebert is a program manager for Louisiana Rehabilitation Services. She is a graduate from Texas Tech University in 2006 with a degree in rehabilitation counseling. She has over 17 years with LRS and serves as a training director for LRS. Hi, Shelley.
Hi.
Next, we have Nicole. Nicole is the program coordinator for LRS. She graduated from North Texas in 2010 and has an MS in rehabilitation counseling. Hi, Nicole.
Hi.
And lastly, we have Angela Montgomery. Angela has been employed with LRS for over 11 years. She serves as a rehabilitation program coordinator of community rehabilitation program monitoring and supported employment. She holds a master's degree in rehabilitation counseling from Southern University and is a lifelong resident of Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Thank you, ladies. And Melissa, you can go ahead and share your screen.
Okay, can y'all see my screen now?
Yes.
Okay, great. Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Bambi, for giving us the opportunity to present today. I'm going to give a general overview of LRS, but then we're going to spend a considerable amount of time talking about some special projects and initiatives that we have. And obviously at the end, please let us know any questions that you have or anything that you'd like us specifically to discuss. For those of you who are not aware, Louisiana Rehabilitation Services is actually a unit under the Office of Workforce Development at the Louisiana Workforce Commission. Okay. We have 8 regions, and we have regional offices in all 8 regions. Our regions are in line with the workforce development regions. And if you go to laworks.net, you can find the contact information for the regional manager for each of our regional offices, as well as phone numbers, email addresses, things like that if you need to get in contact with a specific region. The mission of LRS is to assist persons with disabilities in their desire to obtain, maintain, or advance in competitive integrated employment and achieve independence in their communities by providing rehabilitation services and working cooperatively with business and other community resources. Our mission has been the same for many years. There has been more of an emphasis on advancement in employment since the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act. We are funded under Title IV of what we call WIOA, which is the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act. We are actually federally under the Department of Education, the Office of Special Education and Rehabilitative Services, and the Rehabilitation Services Administration. So that's just kind of how we're funded at the federal level. We're funded 78.7% federally and 21.3% state. We do have to have the state match in order to draw down those federal funds. So for every dollar that we receive in state general funds, we receive $3.69 in federal funds as a match. So that's just to kind of give you an idea of how we're funded. There are several programs under LRS. Our main, our flagship program that most people are aware of is the Vocational Rehabilitation Program. We also have a small grant for supported employment. We have the Randolph Shepherd Program, which is an entrepreneurial program for individuals who are blind or visually impaired to operate vending and cafeterias in state and federal buildings. We also have independent living services for older individuals who are blind. That's a grant that we receive, and we actually sub-grant to contractors to provide those independent living services for that population. And then we also have Independent Living Part B, which is also subcontracted to our independent living centers to provide independent living services. One thing that I know has been mentioned already during the conference is pre-employment transition services. So LRS, as part of WIOA, we have to reserve 15% of our federal allotment on pre-employment transition services, which are transition services for students with disabilities who are in either secondary or post-secondary education and who are between the ages of 16 and 21. So on the screen, you will see the 5 core pre-employment transition services. But just to kind of sum them all up, basically, these are an early start to job exploration so that individuals with disabilities have the employment skills, the work search skills, the advocacy skills, and the work-based learning experiences that they need in order to prepare them to either post-secondary education or to employment, depending on what their goals are once they exit from the school system. As far as services for next school year, we have been collaborating with the State Department of Education as well as the local school districts. As you know, has been spoken about many times during this conference. This year is going to be especially challenging in the school districts, just with the pandemic, the different restrictions. So we are working with our local school districts to figure out the best plan for their particular schools as to how we can provide these services to the students with disabilities in their schools. We have 3 different methods of delivery of pre-employment transition services. Our rehabilitation counselors employed at LRS can provide these services directly. That could be in schools or virtually. We have community rehabilitation programs that can provide these services. And we also provide these services through third-party cooperative arrangements, which is basically just an arrangement where the school district and LRS have a contract, and the school district is able to employ a transition specialist to provide pre-ets for their school district. So for schools that are not already established in how we provide those services, we're reaching out diligently to be able to make sure that we provide those services to all schools across the state. Just some general information about LRS. I mean, we serve a broad range of disabilities. They have some examples on the screen, anywhere from physical disabilities, behavioral disorders, traumatic head, brain injury, developmental disability, spinal cord injury. We help all individuals with disabilities that need our services. On the screen now is the VR case process. You can call into any of our regional offices to make a referral. After that referral is made, then we have the application, which is the initial interview, where we interview the consumer to figure out what services they need, what is their disability, what limitations do they have, and we get all the assessments and evaluations that we need to establish eligibility. And once we establish eligibility, then we move on to planning and service provision. And obviously, the most important thing is successful employment at the end of their employment plan. I'm not going to spend too much time on that, but if you have any questions at the end, please let me know. For the eligibility criteria, basically you have to have a disability that results in a substantial impediment to employment. You have to be able to benefit in terms of an employment outcome and require VR services to enter, engage in, advance in, or retain gainful employment. LRS is under an order of selection. And what that means is that just depending on our funding, we may have to close categories. We are required, as we should be, to serve individuals with the most significant disabilities first. So the order of selection provides a process that makes sure that those individuals are prioritized. So if we do not have enough funding to provide services to all individuals that are referred to us, then we are able to close categories to ensure that funding is available for the most significant disabilities first. We have 5 orders right now, meaning 1 being the most significantly disabled and 5 being non-significantly disabled. Right now, the first 4 are open and order selection group 5 is closed. However, right now we do not have a waiting list. So there's no individuals on our waiting list right now. So I just explained the different order selection categories. I'll just leave that on the screen for just a second so you can see order selection group 1, the most significantly disabled. You have to have 4 or more functional capacity areas affected to be in that particular category, and then it goes down from there. Just to give you an idea, when a counselor is establishing eligibility, the 8 functional capacity areas that we're looking at are mobility, motor skills, communication, self-care, self-direction, interpersonal skills, work tolerance, and work skills. So the counselor is using medical documentation as well as the information that the consumer provides during their initial interview to determine which of these areas they have severe or non-severe functional limitations in to establish eligibility. Once eligibility is determined, and if you're in a group that we're currently serving, then we start working on your plan. The counselor and the consumer work together to identify, decide, and develop a career pathway. We look at the consumer's interests, their strengths, what their abilities are, in determining what's an appropriate vocational goal. And we also look at labor market information. because we don't want to prepare individuals for jobs that are not available in Louisiana's labor market, because that would be frustrating to the individual. So we help them to make informed decisions using the available labor market information, so that they can make a good choice in what career path they want to take. And as always, the primary service in LRS is vocational guidance and counseling. So throughout the process, we provide vocational guidance and counseling. Here's a list of, we have a wide range of services. Services are individualized depending on the person's need. But services that we provide include the guidance and counseling, mental or physical restoration, training services, rehabilitation, technology, home modifications, vehicle modifications, and pre-employment transition services. Support employment, which support employment, for those of you who are not aware, that's the service that we provide if individuals need job coaching on the job and they need long-term services, that support employment. If they don't need the long-term follow-up, we do time-limited job coaching or on-the-job training services. And Angela will be talking later about customized employment. We also do small businesses, occupational tools, accommodations, work readiness, and post-employment services. Some of our services are based on financial need. We have a list here of what services are based on financial need. Something exciting that I can share with you all is that we recently changed the rule on our financial need criteria. Prior to this rule, we looked at the poverty guidelines and we allowed up to 250% over those guidelines. We were able to provide cost services for the services based on financial need. And now we have the flexibility to increase that from 250% to 500, depending on our funding. And right now we have increased it to the 500%. So basically we have doubled the amount that you can make or a family can make and still receive cost services from LRS. And yes, this is the new financial need criteria. So I'll leave that on the screen for a minute here so you can see it. So prior to this rule change, it would have been half of this. So that this definitely increases our ability to serve more individuals. And we kind of talked about planning. Basically, once an individual is eligible and we've identified the services that they need, we write what is called an individualized plan for employment, which is basically the consumer's roadmap that results in gainful employment and independence for the consumer. As I stated before, but I want to say again, I mean, services are individualized based on that particular individual's need. This is just some more information on supported employment. We are on a milestone system, meaning that vendors are paid based on outcomes. But this service is for individuals with the most significant disabilities who are going to need that extra support on the job. Job readiness and placement, we typically provide to all of our consumers who don't need support employment services. And these are basically giving them the soft skills, the interview skills, just those skills that an individual needs to be able to obtain and maintain employment. And obviously the end result is successful employment. And we follow up with the consumer for at least 90 days once they're employed. And the counselor continues to provide guidance and counseling to the consumer as they adjust to the work environment. And if the consumer needs something after they go to work and after the case is closed that doesn't necessitate a new case, we do also offer post-employment services. Just some information on the Randolph Shepherd program. I mentioned it earlier. It's an entrepreneurial program for individuals who are blind. If you have ever visited any of the cafeterias in the state building, like the Claiborne building, the Department of Revenue, those are all manned by the Randolph Shepherd program. So blind vendors provide those services. We also have the independent living program, which provides services to individuals with significant disabilities so that they can remain independent in their homes. So it reduces dependency on others for routine activities. So those services are also provided by our vendors. This is our website, www.laworks.net. If you look at the top, you'll see there's a tab for Louisiana Rehab Services that has a link to all of our procedures, our policy, and to our regional office staff contacts. So now I'm going to turn it over to Shelly Hebert, and she is going to talk to you about some of the virtual changes that we've made as a result of the pandemic, but things that I think are going to help us moving forward, no matter what happens. So thank you, Shelly, and I'll turn it over to you.
Thanks, Melissa. Yeah, the big question is, how has COVID-19 affected our consumer contact? Well, during the beginning of this pandemic, when offices were completely closed, we had to quickly transition to virtual services. This was not something that we did in the past, but it was something that was definitely necessary. Our staff learned how to use Zoom, like we're doing today, Skype for Business, to meet with consumers. They learned how to capture signatures electronically through Adobe at first, and then through Zoom, and now we can capture them through our case management system. We were training staff while they were at home to navigate this new virtual process we have in place. Currently, offices are closed to in-person consumer meetings, so we're still utilizing virtual procedures to continue providing services. So let's talk a little bit about those services. Melissa mentioned the services that we provide here at LRS. So I just want to mention a couple of them that we can completely do virtually. First of all, referrals. We can definitely take a referral virtually. We can take it over the phone. And one of the things that we do when we're taking a referral is we are asking the preferred method of communication. What is your preferred method of communication? Because times are changing, people are getting more technology friendly, some maybe not. So do you prefer email? Do you prefer phone calls, text? What is your preferred method of communication? And this helps us communicate in a manner that is most effective for the consumer. The application, we can certainly take an application virtually, like we're doing today. We could talk with our consumers. We can capture the consumer's signature on the application through Zoom. We develop individual plans for employment. Counselors are able to meet with their consumers on Zoom or Skype, and we're able to share our screens with the consumer to review the plan of employment. We can go over it step by step so they see exactly what's on their IPE. We're able to capture their signature a couple of different ways for this scenario. And if for some reason the counselor isn't able to connect via Zoom or Skype, we can contact the consumer by telephone and review the IPE over the phone. Then the consumer will receive an email with a copy of their IPE so that they can electronically sign it. Vocational guidance and counseling, that's another great service that we have that we can fully provide virtually. It is a wonderful way to really connect with your consumers. Then we have follow-up services, we have post-employment services. There's a number of services that we can completely provide virtually. Since we now have the capabilities of capturing signatures electronically, we're striving to move toward having electronic case records. This will also assist us in being more mobile and will help us to provide virtual services better, as everything will be in our case management system. There won't be any more paper files to carry around or any more folders to look through for our documentation. We'll have everything in one location. Not only will it help us in events such as this, but it can just make our counselors more mobile on a day-to-day basis. We also have our staff, they were able to utilize Google Chrome for phone calls and text. We found that texting appointment reminders is sometimes a better method than a phone call or a snail mail. If you don't know who the phone call is coming from, you may not answer it. And not everybody seems to be getting their mail in a timely manner, or maybe you don't check your mail. And so we just found that a lot of times texting appointment reminders is a better method, but it all depends on the consumer's preference. Overall, we're making great progress towards conducting business as usual, but through virtual methods. So we are adapting as quickly as we can. Now I would like to turn it back to Melissa to start us off discussing some special projects LRS is working on.
Thank you, Shelley. I wanted to mention we do have a project with the Office of Behavioral Health through a technical assistance grant that we have. We call it VOICE. It's Visionary Opportunities to Increase Competitive Employment. We are in the process of establishing some pilot projects in Baton Rouge and Houma. And the goal of these projects is to improve service delivery, increase employment outcomes for individuals with serious mental illness. So we are trying to, obviously LRS has always assisted individuals with serious mental illness, but we recognize that, we can always improve. So we're working hand in hand with the Office of Behavioral Health to try to develop some better processes. We're identifying some challenges that we've had in the past so that we can succeed in the future. So we've already identified that we need, training for our community rehabilitation programs so that they're better equipped to understand how to work with this population. So we're just in the beginning phases of this particular work, but we are about to establish these pilot projects. And so hopefully we can develop these processes so that we can replicate these in all 8 regions so that we can move the needle and increase employment for individuals in this population. So now I am going to turn it over to Angela Montgomery, and she is going to talk to you all about customized employment.
Good morning, everyone. Before I get into customized employment, I need to talk a little bit about the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act, which was legislation that was passed in 2014 by the Obama administration, with one of the primary goals being to provide employment opportunities for individuals who have had barriers to employment, which of course would include individuals with disabilities. LRS works closely with the Office of Citizens for Developmental Disabilities. WIOA also propelled, if you will, the push for the transitioning of individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities who are working in sheltered employment, to move those people from sheltered employment into employment opportunities in the community with competitive wages. So customized employment is a way that can be, a tool that can be used to do that. And it was actually added, WIOA actually added customized employment to the definition of supported employment, which is a service that's been around for a while. But customized is new to LRS and it's new to Louisiana. To define it, the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act defines customized employment as the competitive integrated employment of an individual with a significant disability that's based on an individualized determination of the strengths, needs, and interests of the individual with a significant disability, and is designed to meet specific abilities of the individual with the significant disability and the business needs of the employer, and is carried out through flexible strategies such as customizing a job description based on current employer needs or on previously unidentified and unmet employer needs, developing a set of job duties, a work schedule, specifics of supervision, including performance evaluation and review, and determining a job location. Representation by professional chosen by the individual or self-representation of the individual and working with with an employer to facilitate placement and providing services and support at the job location. And some of the essential elements of customized employment include the negotiation of job duties. Customized employment is individualized and it involves a job for one person. There's negotiated pay of at least the minimum wage. Customized employment occurs in businesses in the community or in businesses owned by the individual. Customized employment facilitates mutually beneficial voluntary employment relationships. Job development agents are used as a necessary to represent the employer or the employment seeker, excuse me. It's a qualitative, no-fail process that presumes that all individuals can work. And customized is self-employment or customized wage employment as chosen by the individual and is best used to meet the needs of employment seekers with disabilities which have not been or unlikely to be successful with traditional demand side employment. So the way that or an example that I like to use in talking about customized employment, traditional demand side employment could be likened to purchasing a garment. If somebody needed a garment for a particular event and they went to the store to search for that garment, you're gonna look at garments that are already made that fit your particular build. Well, customized employment can be likened to having a garment tailor-made. You would go to the tailor and they would measure you to make sure that that garment is made specifically to fit your particular build. So that's a good way to compare customized employment to traditional demand side employment. So as I said earlier, customized is a new service. It has not been offered to individuals in Louisiana prior to WIOA. So before people can receive the services, they need to understand it. LRS staff needed to understand it. Our employment providers needed to not only understand it, but understand how to actually provide the services. And then of course, the people who can benefit from the services also need to know what it is and how it can benefit them, and of course, where to obtain it. I have to mention the Louisiana Developmental Disabilities Council because back in, I think it was about 2017, they endeavored to bring information and awareness to Louisiana, to our citizens, as well as service providers about customized employment. And as a result of that, a partnership was developed with LRS, the Workforce Innovation Technical Assistance Center, or WINTAC, and Mark Golden Associates, which is one of the leading training providers and consultants in the nation in terms of customized employment. And we began a customized employment pilot here in Louisiana in 3 different parishes within the state. What we found is that through that pilot, if you will, with Mark Golden Associates, was that it was very expensive and time consuming. So that in turn led to the Workforce Innovation Technical Assistance Center assisting us with obtaining funds to start a second pilot. And this pilot is with the University of South Florida and LSU Human Development Center. The University of South Florida has a ACRE approved curriculum and training program, which they are using to train approximately 5 staff members from LSU Human Development Center in a train the trainer type program, to where those staff will be trained in customized employment, and then they will in turn be able to provide this training to LRS employment providers at a less expensive cost, and it will be something that is sustainable, meaning that they can provide the training on a continual basis. So this training is ongoing. COVID has, initially it delayed the start of the training, but it was just that, it was a delay, because the good thing about it is that it can be provided virtually. So it is ongoing through virtual means. And the good thing, one benefit of this training going on during this pandemic event, is that they can also identify ways that the service can be provided to clients virtually as well. So at the end of this pilot program, LSU will be able to start training other vendors around the state who can offer the service on behalf of LRS. So we're excited about customized employment training. We do believe that it can be very beneficial in providing employment opportunities for individuals who have not been able to go to work because of their significant disabilities, or they've tried it and maybe they weren't able to be successful in it. So thank you very much for listening. And I'm going to now turn it over to Nicole Miller, who will talk to you about Project Search.
Hello, everybody. I'm going to talk about Project Search for a moment. It is a global program that started in 1996, and it is a collaboration between schools, state agencies, and businesses to create internships for young adults with moderate cognitive and developmental disabilities. LRS is very excited to have its first Project Search starting this school year. We are partnering with Ivorill Parish School System, Dow Chemical Plaquemine location, and the Arc of Ivorill. The students will participate in up to 3 unpaid internships at the host employer. It provides training for transferable and marketable skills with the goal of meaningful employment in positions that have historically been unavailable to this population. The surge population has 72% unemployment rate without the use of this program. However, it drops to 17% with Project Search. Employment eligibilities. You have to be between the ages of 18 to 21 years old, and it has to be your last year of high school. You have to be eligible for LRS services and have to have appropriate hygiene, social, and communication skills, and the ability to take and follow rules. And there has to be a desire to work in the community at the end of the Project Search. Support after Project Search. LRS is an essential part of Project Search. We provide guidance and counseling to the students. We provide funding for the skills instructor that remains with the student on site throughout their internship. And they also work with the students to help them gain not only independence, but also financial independence. That's the overview of Project Search. I am looking forward to hopefully expanding Project Search in the future to other employers and to expand it to different schools as well. And at this point, I'll turn it over to Melissa.
All right, thank you, Nicole. Thank you for giving us that information. We are excited about our first Project Search site. So at this point, I'm going to look to see I think we have some, do we have some Q&A?
Yeah, Melissa, this is Bambi.
Yes,
I'll
yes.
ask you questions if all of you
Awesome.
people want to turn on their camera so we can see
Okay.
everyone.
Thank you.
And I'll try and facilitate asking these questions. Okay. Let's see. Okay, who can provide pre-ed services?
Nicole, do you want to take that? Nicole's our pre-ed program coordinator.
Pre-ed services can be provided either through the counselor directly, through a CRP, which is a vendor or one of our providers, or it can be provided through a TPCA, which is done through the school system, to where the school actually hires a person to provide the services, and we provide funding for that in the school system.
Okay, so the next comment is the pre-ed's instruction and self-advocacy program is beneficial. The Louisiana POD, which is the Post-Secondary Alliance, mentioned during the last session the need for individuals who are in pursuit of post-secondary education to learn more self-advocacy skills when it comes to other needs in the collegiate environment. If not already done, would it be possible that a collaborative effort between LRS and LA PI could happen to assist in this endeavor to provide more training to self-advocates on this issue? Maybe include self-advocacy training, only because it seems post-secondary education is aligned with employment.
Yes, I think that would be a great idea, and we would definitely welcome that collaboration with them.
And then the next question, are you providing customized employment services specifically for those with significant disabilities?
Angela, do you want to take that?
Yes, customized employment can be, it's going to be provided for anybody with any type of significant barrier to employment. Well, I do need to mention that they do have to meet the criteria for supported employment.
Which, can you explain that?
Yeah. An individual with a significant disability who's had barriers to employment, who may have had, they've attempted employment and were unsuccessful 3 times within, I'm sorry, y'all, anybody can help me, but
basically what Angela is, she's trying to remember the procedures verbatim, which
yes,
is
I'm
difficult.
sorry.
But basically, customized employment is going to be for those individuals who, because they have unique impairments or unique limitations,
yes,
will need additional, they'll need this specialized service. So most individuals, we're successful at actually just working with a vendor and them job developing based on jobs that are already available in the field. But with customized employment, these are for individuals who generally are not going to be able to take a position as it's written and be able to perform those tasks. They
correct.
need different tasks. So we are able to, and it involves a lot on the getting to know the employer. It's a very unique and a very it's a very intense service.
But again, it can be offered to anybody with a significant disability. One of the pieces to customized employment involves a process called discovery. And through the discovery process, a person's abilities are identified based on what they can do already. And so then the job is customized based to the skills that a person already has, as opposed to trying to take an individual and match them to a preset of job descriptions. So I apologize. I hope that answers the question. If not,
Yes, it does. Thank you. My next question is for you, Melissa. How much in state matching funds would you need to pull down enough federal funds to serve all 5 levels?
I can't tell you the exact amount, but I can tell you it's around 14 to 15 million. And this year, LRS had about $7.9 million in state general funds.
Now, Melissa, that's to pull down the maximum dollar amount, the Fed match, right?
Right. So we received 7.9, but to get the full amount, it's in the range of about 14 million. And it fluctuates depending on different things. It gets really complex. I mean, I can get you a better number. But like, we talked about third-party cooperative arrangements. In those instances, that the school district is actually providing the state match. So it gets very convoluted, but long story short, about 14 million, I would say. And it also differs every year. So every year the feds, they use some formula to determine how much is available to each state. And our state, for the last several years, we've had about 60 million available to our state, but we generally send back between 20 and 30 million of that because we can't match it. But I can get y'all exact numbers on that.
So Melissa, specifically the question was how much is needed to serve all 5 levels? I think you are serving all 5 levels, right?
Yeah, that's a yes. So right now we're actually serving 1 through 4. Okay. 5 is closed, but because of our funding, we have been, as people have been put on order selection group 5, we've been able to take them off. So we technically don't have a waiting list right now. And when you say, how much money do you need to serve all? That's a complicated question because like right now we don't have a waiting list, but we don't have all of our funding. So how are we doing that? Well, basically we could be doing better. I mean, we could be serving people more quickly because of our limited staff. It'll take us longer to do the initial interview. It might take us longer to do planning because of our staffing levels. We have been able to increase services, meaning we've expanded the economic need criteria. So there's some different things that we could do if we had more funding available. But we are doing the best that we can with what we do have.
Okay, and the next question, which is actually a question I think I asked you last week at a meeting, if an adult with a developmental disability still lives in the parent's home, are the parent's income considered when determining financial eligibility?
It depends. If somebody's under the age of 24, yes. However, if you receive Social Security because of a disability, you automatically meet financial need, and you do not have to contribute to the cost of services. So it depends. Basically, if they receive Social Security because of their disability, it doesn't matter. No, we don't look at the parent's income, but if they do not receive Social Security and they're under the age of 24, then yes, we would have to look at the parent's income.
Okay, next question. When can someone get vehicle modifications if in college?
That's an interesting question. And I'm going to say at the beginning, it's, all services are individualized. We generally don't do vehicle modifications at the beginning of if someone's going to be in a 4-year program, generally we wait closer to when that person is going to actually be going to work. However, depending on that person's situation, if that's the only way they're going to be able to get to and from school, it would definitely be something that we would consider.
Okay, what is the turnaround time for connection with an LRS counselor once a referral has been made? And how long does a counselor remain assigned to an individual in need of services?
Okay, so our standard is 45 days, meaning we don't like to go over 45 days. If we can see people sooner, definitely we will. Unfortunately, depending on the region, if we are having, we have turnover. And if we have a lot of vacancies in a region, sometimes that might be over the 45 days, but we generally don't want to go over the 45 days. Your counselor should not change, but we have counselor turnover. We have counselors who take different positions, different things like that. So it really just depends on the situation, but generally when you start with a counselor, you should stay with that particular counselor unless something like that occurs.
So for, we have a comment from someone who does work with veterans. Who would the person need to contact in the future to set up an outreach to speak with LRS?
But our veterans coordinator here is Brenda Bora, and I know Bambi, you're familiar with her. She's our veterans representative for LRS. So we can get you some contact information for her.
Okay, let's see. So the question is, why can't LRS create a plan to spend most of the money so that a lot of it does not go unspent and return back to the federal government?
Okay, let me clarify. We don't send money back because we don't spend it. We send money back because we can't draw it down because we don't have the state general funds. So, and I said that, maybe I was too confusing earlier. When I said we would need about 14 million to draw all of our federal funds down, but we only receive about 7.9 million. But we do return, we say we return it, we never actually receive it, but we call it we returned it because it is available to LRS.
Mabel wants one too.
But that's actually, we just were never able to draw it down because we don't have the state general funds to draw those funds down. I hope that clarifies that.
Yes. We have another, I guess to be the last one. You lost approximately $1 million last fiscal year, and another roughly $1 million this fiscal year in state general funds. How has that impacted services?
We did not lose any funds this year, so maybe I'm not understanding. We were levelly funded this year. We did take a minor cut last year, but I mean, that's what the order of that's why we have the order of selection. But we have been able to, we've been able to do what we need to do with the funding that we have. I mean, if we had more funding, then maybe I could hire some additional counselors, which would reduce all your wait times and things like that. But we do try to manage the best that we can with the funds that we have.
And that, we're at the end of our time. And so we really appreciate you being here. Do you have any closing comments or anything?
No, but thank you again, Bambi, for inviting us to present. If any of you ever have any concerns, any questions about LRS, please feel free to reach out to me. We are trying, we're always trying to improve and make services better at LRS. So we always welcome any comments and suggestions. But thank you so much for allowing us the opportunity to present to this group.
Thank you. Thank all of you.
Thank you.
So now we're going to break for lunch. Our next session, our lunch will be really short because we're trying to jam all the information we can into the schedule. And so our next session will start at 12:30. We'll end our YouTube streaming, and we'll start another YouTube streaming for the 3 afternoon sessions, which start at 12:30. So if you're on YouTube, you can go ahead and log out and just go back to our channel, and we'll have a new streaming happening then. And if you are on Zoom, you can stay within Zoom. We'll keep that open, and we'll see you all back at 12:30. We have housing, transportation, and voting on the lineup for this afternoon. Thank you.